Hi, it's Serene here with Goal Nutrition and Diabetes Specialty. And today we're going to talk about tracking food and tracking physical activity. Tracking can really lead to some positive results when you're trying to make lifestyle choices. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to track, what things to track, and how it might work for you. Because that's the important part, right? Is it's got to work for you. And some people love to track. They track their food or they track their physical activity. They've been doing it for years. They're going to continue to do it. Other people, they dread it, they avoid it because it's such a chore. So hopefully we can come up with some things today that will make it so that you can realize the benefits of tracking and how it could fit into your lifestyle, and realizing that you don't have to maybe track every single day for the rest of your life, but when and how to track and how it works for you. So we're going to cover all that. We're going to start off with talking about tracking food. And I feel like it's important when you track your food to keep notes on things such as what you ate, how much of it you ate, what time of day you ate it, and so that you can really see how your intake looks. And sometimes just the act of writing it down can help you make a different choice. So tracking the important parts like that is what you'll want to do. And one of the benefits to tracking food intake is really just bringing an awareness of what it is you're eating and how much you're eating, and how it's impacting you. So that awareness is a really important piece. It also provides some accountability. So you can be accountable to yourself, or you can share your food log with someone else and be accountable to them. Or maybe you're going to have a buddy that's tracking with you and you can share with each other. But it provides a lot of accountability when you're writing things down, right? And then it also helps you be aware of the portions you're eating. Sometimes we don't realize what we're actually putting on our plate or what we're actually eating until we write it down. Or maybe you're snacking out of a bag or a box, and it will make you count how much you're eating or measure how much you're eating. It will just help you decide how big a portions you're having, and if maybe you're having too large a portions, or maybe you could have a little bit more. So portions, important part. Also, as you're tracking food intake, pay attention to, after you're done, look at this, maybe a whole week's worth. Look back and see what certain times of day are you seeing a pattern of eating certain types of foods or amounts of foods, and determine maybe what some of the triggers are, and then come up with a plan to be ready for when those triggers hit. And that is a definite benefit of tracking your food intake. And then also just paying attention to how it impacts your health. The food that you're eating, is it causing you to be sluggish or have a hard time sleeping? Is it making you stay full for a long time? Or maybe you don't feel well after you eat a certain food or a certain amount of food. So paying attention to what foods do to you health-wise is also really, really important, and write those things down. You can have a little section for notes or miscellaneous things on your food log, and keep track of things like that, because it's really important information to learn from your tracking, because we want it to be something that's going to lead you toward the goals that you have for yourself. So this tracking of your food needs to be something that's going to help you get to those goals. Now, tracking physical activity is also very important, because it does help you see progress, and it helps you really determine where you're at and helps you make a plan for how you can get where you want to be. So start off once again by tracking for a whole week. Write down the time of day you're active, what activity you're doing, the length of time, the distance, the intensity, things like that, so that you can really see where you're at. With physical activity, it's really, really important to just start where you're at. So don't feel like you have to overdo it just because you're writing it down. You're writing it down so you can see where you're at, and then you can figure out how to move forward. So start where you're at, take little steps to work your way up, but writing it down will help you see really where you are, and it will help you see progress. It's great to look back and see how far you've come when you're tracking your physical activity. We want you to use tracking as a tool. It's not a task. It's not something you're supposed to dread doing. You're supposed to use it as a tool so that you can identify areas in your lifestyle that you can make some changes or some adjustments, maybe areas where you can increase just a little bit. And so sometimes if we think about it as more of a tool than a task, it will help us be more motivated to be consistent with some tracking. And like I said, I would start out with one whole week of tracking, and then you can kind of decide from there where you want to go with your tracking. It's got to help you accomplish what you're trying to do. So if it doesn't fit into your schedule to track all the time, it's difficult, it's stressful, then maybe you're going to want to, after that full week, pick some certain days that you track or certain times that you track. But don't let it intimidate you. So some ideas for tracking. First of all, as you're deciding how you want to track, make sure whatever you're doing is easily accessible. So if you know that you're not home much during the day, your computer at home may not be the best place to track your food or your physical activity. Maybe you like things written down. You want to open a book and look at it. Or some people like to just take their planner that they already have and they write in it each day their food intake, and they have a place to log their activity, and it's just all right there together where they can find it. You can create a spreadsheet. You can find a template online where you can fill it in, or maybe you're like to use an app. They have all kinds of apps you can put on your phone, on your computer, and you can track. And a lot of those apps have things like you can look up certain foods and they tell you calorie content and macronutrient distribution. So there's things like that in apps that you can get that are a real benefit, but find what works for you. It's not the same for everybody. If you do have a tracking buddy, you may both choose different ways to track. The important part is that you're doing it and do what works for you. How often, we've kind of talked a little bit about how often you should track. After you've done that first full week where you can get a good baseline, there's other important times to track food and or physical activity. One of those times would be when you've kind of hit a little bit of a plateau, or you've had some changes, or you want to increase, maybe you want to increase your physical activity, or you want to add in some strength training because you feel like you've kind of pushed yourself as far as you can with cardio. Well, track that for a few days, see where you're at, and then write down some ideas of areas where you can increase physical activity. Now, maybe you're trying to lose weight, and so you're tracking food. Maybe you hit kind of a point where you don't know for sure what type of goal to set next. And so if you track your food for a few days, identify some areas where maybe you can make some changes, and that gives you a really good start again to making those changes. So you can see you don't have to track every single day if it's not going to work for you, but it's got to be something that is reasonable for what you can do, so it's not a frustration. It's got to be something that can fit in to what you're already doing, and so that it can make a positive impact on the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And so there's not a wrong or right way, and don't expect perfection out of any of it. Don't expect your tracking to be perfect, and don't expect your eating habits and your physical activity routine to be perfect either. And so that's another thing. Give yourself some slack and look for the areas where you're doing really well and celebrate your successes and share those with other people and be proud of the accomplishments that you make as you're tracking. Look back and see the progress, and then identify areas where you can maybe improve and move forward, and then take those steps to move forward. But remember to use tracking as a tool to help you to accomplish your goals.